What's up, everybody? It's your boy LondonBridge for Space Yacht Radio. Today on the Zoom, in a studio in Chicago, we have Gene Farris on the show. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
My main man, London. What's up? Thanks for having me, man. Big fan of Space Yacht. Happy to be here.
I saw you in the Twitch chat a couple weeks ago when we had, there's like a lot of Chicago people in the Twitch chat the other day.
Yeah. I've found that now I have nothing but time. I think I've watched every live stream that is humanly possible to watch from my friends that have like me and like 5 other people watching, you know, smoking a couple of joints, to Desert Hearts, to you guys, to Dirtybird, to, you know, Ferris Wheel. Our stream's doing really well as well too.
Yeah.
I've been, you know, to what's the big dogs, our buddies, Insomniac. You know, I've been Movement. Jesus Christ.
Well, it's like new stuff to study. The way in which like we study music and what other DJs and producers are doing. I feel like this whole Twitch game and this stream game now is like, all right, well, these are things that as a DJ you now need to know how to do. You know,
you have to know how to stream or you're in trouble. Pretty much nowadays, and there's no excuse. I think globally the scene is going to be way more educated after this, because there's really no excuse anymore to say, oh, I don't even know who that DJ is, or right, I haven't heard of that guy. It's like, dude, he's did live streams since March. Right. It's now next March. We're just opening up.
Right. No, it's true. And even like you mentioned with Insomniac, like obviously they're at the top of the mountain with like the production, but they are definitely like showcasing artists that you wouldn't normally see. So if you're just a kid who's like just tuning in for like whatever that main stage person is, you're going to get some layers or some sets before that are like, oh,
absolutely. Like my sister Jay Wara was on there.
Yeah. She's,
I saw MK on there. Yeah, like it's pretty. Bot, I think Bot was on one, but was that the one that was for sound, I think.
Yeah,
that was really sick.
That was
you guys, right?
Yeah, that was us.
Yeah, he smashed it, man.
Dude,
he smashed it. That was really good.
Also,
that was probably one of my favorite sets from him, and I've known him for years.
And he's wearing like the black gloves and the mask, like, and he has the long hair now. So it was like.
Well,
really,
I was gonna say he's got this mug, he's got this mop mug rolling now. I'm like, is that my buddy under there? Or is that like a stunt double hat?
It's like a
mask and hair.
He's like a mad Italian scientist, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he had the gloves rolling, and like he was real Daft Punk and Air with the vibe right there. I would say there was real Air vibe going on right there.
Well, you know, he's got rep, because like, you know, obviously Bot on his own is a fucking epic producer, but just to be a part of Crookers, you know what I mean, where he comes from. So like everybody in the chat was just like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Everybody was ready for like a very monumental set, and he really.
Oh, he definitely came through, you know, and yeah, I mean the Crookers, man, like those guys are G's, man, forever, you know. I mean, forever.
Not a lot of people, I've had this conversation with like 2 people, but like, you know, like Shiba-san's like, okay, you know, the you know, you look at Crookers, the Crookers Day and Night remix as like the precursor to that, you know what I mean? Because
you kind of think about it, like
a parallel there.
Yeah, I think the Day and Night, that was even probably bigger though, wasn't it? That was huge, like back in the day, you know what I mean? But back in the day, not that long ago, but.
Well, no, but I feel like that Shiba song, the Shiba-san okay kind of feels like the turn in at least like American house, like let's just say from 2010 when the boom starts to like whatever 2014 when that record comes out. That to me is when like Dirtybird is starting to peak out, like this whole tech house wave that we're now like riding and in the middle of, right? Seems like it kind of started there, and I have like. You know, my I like to do conversational stuff as opposed to interviews, but I did kind of take notes and did want to dig in because you've seen the whole scope. You've been doing it since the 90s. You've had the label since the 90s. You're an artist. You're a producer. You know all these different folks like in the communities. And so, like, very simple question, like, did you see this house wave coming? It feels like it's bigger than ever and that it's beyond the walls of just the underground now, you know?
Tech house or house? Well, house, yeah. Like I've always, you know, coming from Chicago, obviously. I started, first time I DJed was, I just say in the 80s. That's my son right now trying to invade. In the 80s, I just say that's when I first started DJing. The first time I DJed out in the public was in like 1990, the 90s, maybe 89, 90. And house has always been the heartbeat of this whole thing. You know, and techno's been kind of the engine, you know, but house has always been the basic startup kit of this whole thing. And then, you know, came techno and stuff after that. And then it evolved into something else and kind of, you know, at the same time paying homage to the past. Like, if you listen to tech house now, okay, and tech house as it is, like, it's so funny how these things are all genre, you know, genrefied.
Right. It's true.
That's a new one. It's all genrefied right now. So, you know, if you listen to some old tracks by Little Lewis, like French Kiss, Blackout, I Called You, War Games, if all this stuff came out right now, today, it would be all called tech house. Mm-hmm. You know, if you listen to Lee Frost and Annabelle England, the vocal house, you know, kind of where it is now, that would all be house if it was back in the day. You know what I mean? The vocals and the beats and everything, it would just be proper house. So I guess, you know, in techno, I can't even begin where that on and off switch is, because if you listen to Derek May's Strings of Life, and Derek May obviously is one of the godfathers and the icons of techno today, one of the originals. Mm-hmm. And you listen to Strings of Life, it's a piano house track. It sounds like something that MK would make.
Right.
You know, not saying, you know, I play that too, so I'm not dissing any of this. I'm just making a point here, you know? And so all the lines get kind of blurry, if you understand what I mean. You know, I think that people need to just more concentrate on what good music, that's kind of being biased too. What music does it for them? Right. You know, I don't think you should concentrate so much on, oh, that's a tech house track, or that's the Dirtybird track. Because to be frank and be honest, Dirtybird, you know, I guess if you put Dirtybird and you listen to their music as a whole, you know, it's not really tech house, is it? It's really something else. It's something completely different. It's almost like bass house, or it's its own thing that it kind of started.
Yeah, it's their own. It's kind of their own point of view on some level, because there are through lines that are in there where you're like, oh, I hear these bleep blops. That's very like Dirtybird. But to your point, it's not one record over and over and over again at all. And the artists they work with are very musically diverse in terms of like the sounds and the types of stuff. But I know what you're saying, because I do it too. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's very Dirtybird. I say that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but some tracks you do hear and you go, oh, I hear the 808, I hear the oh, okay, that's very Dirtybirdish. But it's a sound, you know, God bless them, you know, and I'm so honored to have worked with these guys, and they've been nothing but amazing to me. And you know, I'm not just saying this because, you know, they've been good to me, but it's true. They've created their own sound. Yeah. If you get it, their own kind of look. And you know, you love it, you hate it. You're about plamping, you hate the word plamping. It's kind of created its own movement, hasn't it?
It's brilliant how they flip the whole thing, you know what I mean? Where like that term takes hold for 1 week, and then all of a sudden they're like, all right, cool, we're gonna do a song. We'll do it where it's like Claude's name isn't on it, but whatever, it's coming out of our factory. You know?
Absolutely.
Everybody fucks with it, because everybody also knows that like Dirtybird is kind of known for being that type of meta brand that's kind of thinking a couple layers deeper. And this is one where it's like, it's literally a concept that turned into a sound and kind of like a meme. It's a meme.
It's an awesome meme. And, you know, it's kind of, you know, you go on every stream, somebody's plamping, you know, they're plamping this Emperor Plampatine. Emperor Plampatine's on there. And like, I'm like, dude, this is awesomely cool. But this is what I mean. It's one of those things that we're in a very awesome time of music, okay? It's bigger than it's ever been. No matter what anybody says, it's bigger than it's ever been. It's enough people out there now where you can have multiple scenes. You can have your real deep house scene, okay, which is, you know, to me, real deep house is, you know, Marcus Wyatt, Miguel Miggs, You know, Mark Farina in 1995.
Yeah, no, I got it.
You know, JJ, you know, Molten Records, you know, Lisa Shaw. And, you know, to me, that's real proper deep house stuff, you know. To others, it's Solomon.
Right.
So it's
right.
enough.
Well,
you know,
goes,
it's enough. It's enough going around right now where you can have enough people going out in all multiple scenes, and that's okay. You know, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You know.
But you're also pointing out something from before about the genrefication of these things.
Yeah.
And to your point, the reality is something that was called something here might not be called that here 10 years later, right?
No,
you know what I mean? And that's what's interesting about it. It's like in rock music, like indie rock emo when I was growing up was like hardcore Fugazi heavy shit. It was called emo. Yeah. And then all of a sudden 15 years later it's like the lightest, poppiest bullshit in my opinion that you can ever have, right? So same to your point about deep house, what we're talking about, like tech house.
Absolutely.
You know, these are just terms.
It all used to just be house,
right?
Or it was techno,
right?
Or it was shit. You understand what I mean? Those were the three options you had back in the day.
Right.
You know, house is techno, or it's some crazy shit. I don't know what that is, you know. So, you know, now with all these, you know, subgenres, I think we get lost in that. You know, I've been you know, maybe I shouldn't say this to like people who but it's good for the young kids to know, but I shouldn't say this to like my competition out there. When I shop for music, guys, I don't really look at the genre. I just, this is hot, I want it, I think I can play it. Oh, this is hot, I like that too, I think I can play that.
Yeah.
And what comes from that is, yeah, well, you get a lot of tech house for sure, but you get a lot of real good normal house that you normally wouldn't find, new house records. You get some techno. You get everything. You get all across the genres from everything that, you know, I personally feel for my personal music taste is good music. And that should work the same for all of you out there, I believe, watching the show as well. You should have your own, make your own mold of what you think is good music. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to the Beatport Top 10 charts. Don't listen to your favorite DJ's chart. You know, we can be influential, of course. That's our job to be that. But make up your own, find your own path. You know, be your own person. Be your own human. I guess that's kind of the point I'm trying to make right now.
And is that what kind of keeps you? You know, you've been releasing records and producing records for a while now. So, is that kind of discovery kind of what keeps you going as an artist? Like, is that the kind of the driver?
Yeah. You know, I've been DJing since I was 11 years old, you know, so first of all, I'm in love with her. That's what I call the music. It's a she to me. It could be a he to you, it could be a them to somebody else, but to me, it's her. So I love this music. Always have been in love with it. And I've obviously, like all artists, I've had moments where I've fallen out of love in all relationships. It happens where you fall out, but then you break up and you get back together and everything's better than it was the first time.
Right. So
I guess to answer your question, what's driving me to keep going is my love for it, and to just see how it all ends and where it's going. Like, this is like the crazy times for me. You know, I've been watching this thing go from, you know, being a little teenager, going to Little Lewis parties and listening to Frankie Knuckles as a little kid, and Ron Hardy, God rest his soul, and, you know, being an avid collector of disco when I first started playing disco. You know, I started DJing, I was DJing disco music, and then, you know, finding house music with, you know, in the 80s with, you know, Chippy and, you know, Trax Records, and, you know, and then, you know, finally start making my own kind of music, trying to make my own music at 17 and putting out my first record, Relief Records, at 22, you know, and then I look, you know, to where it is now, from like then to now, it's like, you know, I look back, like I put my first record out, it was 1994, you know, and my wife was born in 1992. So it's really a cool cool thing to just see it all kind of evolve and where it's going, and the music, man, and just, now you got computers involved in the game. So that's a good and bad thing, because when I first started, we were different type of nerds, okay? You had to be the MIDI plug, I know how to hook up my MIDI cables kind of nerds. Right. Maybe a Castle, sequence box, but you knew your equipment. You knew that keyboard, you knew that 909, you knew that was yours. You can work it in and out. We were different type of nerds. We were still music nerds because you had to know how to make music somewhat to learn how to use these pieces of equipment, a bit. Whereas now, we've evolved into a different type of nerd, whereas you don't even really have to even know how to make music anymore. Like the actual essence of music, notes on the keyboard, and, you don't have to even know anything anymore. And you can make a #1 song because the computers have made it that simple for you.
Right.
It's laid out. You can keep everything in key now. Back then, you had to know what key everything was kind of in, which you kind of do now a little bit.
No, but it's easy. There's no doubt that it's easier to make music or easier to produce music than it was before.
Way easier. You don't actually even need a piece of musical equipment in front of you to make music.
Right.
You understand? To that it itself is an anomaly. Like you can just have your laptop and pull your laptop out, and you got a program you put in there. You pop in these little things and get on the flight to Australia, and by the time you get off, you got 3 Beatport #1s ready to go. It's tripped out. It's just things have definitely evolved, or into. Sorry about that. You still there?
Yeah, got you.
Somebody was just trying to call me. I had to deny that. You had to. It's just evolved into something completely different right now, which is awesome.
Do you think it denigrates the value? Do you think it denigrates the value of a track because it's kind of easier to make? And by the way, I don't want to like, people obviously are very amazing producers, high-level producers. Like someone like Calvin Harris is definitely better than your kind of average bedroom producer.
Absolutely.
So I'm not saying there isn't artistry and then there aren't a lot of hours to be put into it, but at the same time, you see this trend of people just releasing record after record after record. That just, it's almost like
I'm one of them. I'm guilty as well.
Yeah, too. But it's all quality with you. They're all hits.
I'm not gonna be like, but that's because I don't work on a laptop, but I don't. Right. But it's like I'm still in the studio. I use mostly analog equipment, same as Claude, same as Walker and Royce, same as my idol and my mentor, one of my best friends, Green Velvet. Yeah. We all still use analog gear, and the computer isn't. How do I say it? It's not flying the ship.
Right.
The computer is part of the ship. It keeps the ship, intact, and it's definitely keeps the ship organized and orderly, but it's not driving. It's not, data's not flying the ship. You know what I mean? It's, I'm still in full control. In fact, I still make music the same way not the same way, but a lot of similar elements. A lot has changed since computers that are better for sure, but a lot of similar elements of just the basics of when I first started making music when I was 17 is still there.
Right.
Because I use a lot of analog gear. Granted, I do still own an original 909, but I don't have to use my original 909 anymore because I just don't have to anymore because I got the Roland Boutique, the 909 is there, and I have a small, when I get really, jonesing for that trigger, I got the small Roland Boutique, which I just play my drums on there. My original 909, that's like, I don't touch that thing, you know what I mean? Leave it alone. That's like gold over there, you know what I mean? Right. Every time's rough.
Right.
You've been with me since the 90s, baby, but
No, but to that point, like I was digging into some of your earlier records, and in addition to kind of the heavy disco influence, because you were saying that you were DJing the disco stuff, I was also hearing like definitely specifically on like This Is My Religion, it's like very sample heavy. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Sure.
the backbones a lot of these tracks are like kind of main samples, and then obviously you doing your own thing to it. So, and then as you progress to now, like to your most current, oh, we lost you. I'll wait for you.
There we go. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Forgive me.
No. So I was just kind of saying the earlier stuff was, at least some of that stuff was very like sample based. And then to now, I would say kind of like, let's just say the releases from the last 2 or 3 years, right, are very much like, you know, they're not samples. It's either your voice or like the beat and the track that's like that you made, right? So
Right.
so it's very different because in these older records, like, you know, you have like there's like that Miles Davis one, which
sure.
one, the Grail. It's like, what's crazy about that is that I was just watching a Miles Davis documentary the night before, and then I put this on, and I was like, dude, this is so what? I was
it's
just
like he's like, that's got to be the same sample. I hear that.
There's a crazy connection. But so in terms of like those, let's just say late 90s, early 2000s, was the sampling because you could do it and there's less people like restricting on people using samples, or was that more of like the style then? Because I know like Fatboy Slim, Big Beat, that whole kind of style was happening then as well, in late 90s.
You know, that's kind of definitely the style that was happening then. I'm a producer. Well, first of all, I'm a music producer. That's first of all, before anything. And I'm a house producer. I'm an electronic music producer, first and foremost. So I move with the times. I'm not one of these producers who, how can you say it? They get stuck in a time. Right. They get stuck in an era. Right. That's the best way to say it. They get kind of era stuck.
Right.
And thankfully that hasn't happened to me yet. You know, I move with the times. Like in that era and that times, the disco stuff was really, really big, really, really popular and doing really well. And even now, like me and the stuff that me and Cashmere makes, when we, you know, and I'm really itching for that feeling again, or that disco vibe, we make the Cashmere and Gene Farris stuff, which is all disco-based stuff, all sample stuff, kind of like the original stuff I was doing in the 90s, Daft Punk, me, Daft Punk, Paul Johnson, and, you know, Sneak. We're all notorious kind of like for that whole kind of sound. So whenever I'm dying for that, you know, me and Cashmere, aka Green Velvet, we go back and we make those. Like we got a new disco track coming out now on Casual in July. So I still get it. I still get to scratch that itch every now and then. But the thing is, it's just not as popular as it was. That's right. You know, if I could make that kind of stuff and the kids would go crazy enough of it, like they do with Aphrodisiac or We Work It or, you know, Space Girl. If they went crazy as they did with those songs with that disco stuff, I'd still be making it regularly. It's a lot easier, I'll tell you that, to make the disco stuff, because that's my roots. That's, you know, I first started DJing disco, so I already know pretty much what Rare Groove records to grab.
Right.
It's just a matter of, has anybody sampled that? Or usually in the cases, you know, maybe 2 or 3 people in the 90s or something way, you know, spaced out enough where I could get by with it. But it's way easier to make that stuff than, you know, the, you know, tech house stuff that I'm, you know, kind of making now. But I'm in love with it all. Like, you know, maybe that's another reason why it seems like I put out a lot of music, because I don't, when I hit a writer's block, so to speak, and I'm like, shit, you know, I can't think of what else to work about. I don't know what other aphrodisiac could I possibly be singing about right now. What am I gonna do now? No more Space Girls to write about. When I do that, when I hit that hole, I start doing disco songs. I'll go on the side. I'll go start sampling stuff. So my brain it's never really dead time in the studio for me. Like I'll just start on something else. Like I'll start making like disco samples again, and I'm back to that. And then usually from making a disco sample, my tech house brain will come back on, or my house brain, or something, you know. Even techno. Like if you listen to some of my old stuff from the early 90s, the release stuff was really like techno stuff.
Right.
So, you know, back to the original question, you know, what drives it all? it's the love for it, man. It's the challenge too, of knowing that, that he's my little brother, that there's a 22-year-old, John Summit somewhere making a track somewhere on his laptop, and I need to be in the studio to keep up with these little guys, and he's like my one of my best friends,
especially John. I mean, he's crushing the shit right now.
Yeah, we're par for par. He'll be like, damn, you just like duck, 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 duck. I'm like, me, I'm keeping up with you. You're like duck, 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 duck. So, if as long as I'm on par with the youth, I think in the top producers of the youth today, I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
Well, it's relevance. It's like to stay relevant, you have to work at it. You, like, to your point, you can't stand still. And any of the producers that have been in it for a long time, you see how they continually evolve or understand how to jump in and out of things as they're going on. It's you're able to see the landscape. That's what it is. Man. You can see what's happening and understand how you can fit into it.
Things slow down a lot more, when you get older and you've been in the game for a long time. They slow way down, way more. And you don't get so upset about things that you would get upset about when you were younger. Mm-hmm. You don't get caught up in a specific moment, whereas you're caught up in the entire moment, if you understand what I mean. The landscape, exactly what you just said. And you look at the big picture of things, I had an interesting decision to make when this whole Corona thing kicked off, because I pretty much have releases coming out every month till December, okay? From beginning of the year till December. Most of them are all signed. I got like 2 left to sign, but they've already been done since last year for all the music for this year. Right. So the instant decision was to do I be a pussy, pull all the tracks, don't come out with anything while this whole Corona thing's going on.
Right.
And just say, oh, I got these 14 amazing songs that I'm just holding on till 2021. Be a pussy and do that. Or that's kind of just leaves with one decision when you put it like that, though, G.
Right.
Do I make that decision?
Exactly.
Do I make that decision? Or do I go door number 2, which is what I chose, which is to continue to put out music as if it was nothing at all happening.
Right.
Keep going to the studio every day. And while knowing that all your music is already done for the year, and keep going in the studio every day like I have been, and constantly be working on music for 2021. Shit, I'm already a year ahead of myself. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And I'm already, I would say, I got maybe 6 or 7 songs already kind of done for 2021. And I'm just kind of just pushing on, man, and just keep working and kind of just staying ahead of the curve and staying positive as much as I can. Yeah. Trying to be a good dad to my son. Be a good husband as much as I can without driving my wife bananas. And just wait for all this to kind of be over with, and do my live streams and push my artists on my label. Keep their heads up, because again, like a lot of my artists, John Summit and Karsten and Dead Space and Ghetto Blaster, they're like younger than me, so they can get discouraged really easy, so it's kind of my job as the leader of the pack to keep everybody's heads on straight and making them feel good and keep things kind of positive.
Absolutely.
So yeah, man, I'm just, I could have been a lazy wimp and just, kind of held on all this music and not work through this whole ordeal and, but I refuse to do that. I refuse to be stagnant or to not keep my ninja sword sharp, so to speak.
It's also staying relevant is the entire currency now, right? So it's like we're not making money off of ticket sales or whatever. But it's like if you stop being relevant by not, let's just say, not putting out music or not being proactive on Twitch or whatever you need to be doing, then you actually come out of this in a way worse position. And you might have had those records, but those records, I guarantee you, these new records are going to be impacted by what you're doing now. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
my managers would totally agree with you.
Well, there you go. No, so that's
They're
the
like,
vibe.
stop working. Are you crazy?
No.
What do you
It's
mean,
like,
stop working?
No, it's now an opportunity for all of us to either, to make the most of or not, right? And
yeah.
That's the thing that drives us at Space Yacht and my own music as well. It's like, falling out of relevance, it's very hard to get that credibility back. It's very hard to, these are waves and momentum. And once anyone loses momentum, it's very difficult to get it back. So
out of sight, out of mind, I always say, right? And, there's so many options out here for the audience to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's true. There's only one Jay-Z, but, there can be a lot of other people that come, you won't forget about him, but he won't be in the front of your mind anymore. And, I want to stay in people's mind frames, in a positive light. I want them to, half the people don't even know how old I am or how much work I've done or what genre I call, how long I've been in the game. And that's beautiful for me because it keeps me relevant today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it keeps me on my toes because, nobody comes up to me, unless they're doing an interview and then they go, oh, This Is My Religion album you did in Soma back in the day. It was, unless it's an interview or somebody who's really my age, which I don't want to see at the club. If everyone in the club is my age, I'm doing it wrong. I'm so doing it wrong. So it's just one of those things that, I want to stay relevant. And for people, I love it when young people come and they talk about my new music, the Space Girls, the Aphrodisiacs, the plays, and and I love working with a lot of these new artists. Again, like I said, they keep me on my toes, from Riva Starr to, Sonny. It's funny, like Sonny's like literally my little brother. Like I've known Sonny, I've watched him since he was like John Summit, and I'm watching this happen with John now. It's like, and Sonny's a rock star now, baby.
I know, but We Work It is a classic. That's like,
it's a classic. It is. It definitely is. But it's like, I love working with the artists of today, and it makes me, stay on my toes and stay current. Now when I'm in the studio and I make all my own tracks, the So Dope, Space Girl, all this other new stuff, I sound current, not necessarily because, I'm a current, I'm a DJ and I DJ in the current circuit with everyone. Of course, that's definitely a big part of it.
Right.
But it's also because I'm working with current producers who just kind of shows me things from their perspective. So it helps out tremendously, on all fronts, and just as much as they're excited to work with my old ass, I'm excited to work with them, So, it's a beautiful thing. It's definitely a beautiful thing right now.
And the hits keep coming because, like, like the last week, I've been just fucking banging your stuff. I mean, I play your stuff anyway in my sets, but I got into the deeper and deep cuts, and I'm like, damn, so, like, you've just like been fucking. It's good. It's good shit.
Thank you, man.
One thing I wanted to get before we leave. So, you have a unique ability to answer this question, in which is like, let's just say pre-2000s, pre-cell phones, pre-social media, all this.
Okay.
Did the energy in the club, let's say at those early, like whether it's, your early residencies or kind of just any kind of, you think of Chicago, let's just say in the 90s of like.
I've already thought about 15 different times now.
So do you feel like what was kind of the main difference from then and now? Because right now we have the phone, we're distracted. It's its own culture. Like we have this own thing that's not that.
That you almost, well, the thing that was really, I'll break this down in a few different ways. Okay. The thing that was really cool about back in the day is that it was cool to not be seen. Okay. It was the other way around. It was like, I went to this underground party. You weren't there, motherfucker. You weren't there, motherfucker. You missed that shit. That party was the shit. And sucks to be you, because you weren't there. You know what I mean? That was the vibe. You didn't have your cell phone out and you like, oh, everybody look at this cool underground illegal thing I'm going to show to everyone in Facebook. It's like back in the day, it was like really an exclusive thing. Like, you know, I saw Little Lewis last night and he played at Medusa's and you weren't there, motherfucker. And you weren't there, motherfucker. Frankie Knuckles was leaning up against the wall smoking a cigarette and you didn't get to see it. You know what I mean? It was just a completely opposite culture right now, whereas the culture is now is, I got to show everybody I'm there. Which in kind of turn makes the party not as underground, as exclusive. If you got 2, 3, 10, 20,000 people saying that they're there and they all got their phones out.
Right.
It's different. But the good thing about now versus then is you have way more people out now.
Right.
It's not even close. You know, people, you know, don't get me wrong, some parties definitely popped off back in the day, but not like this, you know. I posted a lineup of a party on my social media this week called Tempest. So this party I did it was Green Velvet, it's the headliner. This was 1995, by the way. I did this party. Green Velvet headliner, Gemini, myself, Boo Williams, Ron Trent, DJ Hyperactive, DJ Rush, Justin Long. Who else was on there? Boris. This was like the craziest lineup you could ever imagine, okay? And it was probably like 1,500 people at this party, maybe 1,500 in 1995. If you did that lineup right now, okay, it would probably be a 2-day festival with like, 10, 15,000 people showing up with that same lineup that I just did at a party in Chicago.
Right.
So it's just one of those things now where it's, the old school people like to, try to make it seem like the old school was this super dope thing and it was way better than it is now. In some ways it was cool and it was dope, and some ways it was better than it is now, but some ways it wasn't. It's like now, I'm playing in front of 20,000 people. I'm playing in front of 2,000-3,000 people at once in front of sound system that's, half a $1 million sound system, $600,000. Some systems $1 million or more sound systems, and you're playing in front of people as far as the eye can see, and these people pay, $300, $400 to come see you at a festival that's going on for 3 days, and it's a completely different beast right now. And it's a beautiful thing to see where it's grown to. And this is what excites me to make music and to make Space Girl and Aphrodisiac and We Workin'. And this is what excites me, is because I want to see where it's going. I want to see just how crazy it's going to be. Are we one day going to actually be as big as like Kings of Leon? Are we going to be like as famous as like Lady Gaga actually one day? Is this actually going to happen? Like, because we're close. We're there. You look at some of these, especially over in Europe, like you look at a lot of the festivals over there, and it's bigger than some of these rock festivals, Creamfields and stuff like that. It's bigger. So, I'm just excited to see where it's going. Where it's going to go, and how long am I going to be able to keep doing this without actually having to dye my hair?
You're looking good. I don't see any.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's knocking on that door. It's coming. I feel it.
Me too. I got a little bit of it's happening.
It's happening.
Oh man, well thank you so much, Gene. This is like really awesome. Thank you so much. Like my favorite interviews are where I have like a whole list of questions, but we get to them without me having to ask the question. You basically got to like all the shit that I was. I was
awesome, man.
It's really dope, and we have a guest mix from you. I think I'm actually going to do this in a couple parts because the podcast version I want to do the whole interview. Insomniac Radio version has to be an hour, so I'll probably edit it down a little bit. But this whole interview I think we'll have up on our podcasting because. There's a lot of knowledge in here, so I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Anytime. I love you guys.
And seriously, next time you're in LA, I mean, when they open everything up, like we'd love to have you over at the club. Even just come have a drink, jump on the decks, whatever you want to do, man. It's just.
I would love to, man. I would love to. California. If you all don't know, if I wasn't such a Chicago boy, I would be living out there, no doubt. Like the only, I lived in Amsterdam for 4 years. In Chicago. I lived in Minnesota for like a year and a half, but my real love has always been Cali. I got so much love for you guys out there.
Yeah, man.
So, thank you so much for having me, man.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are going into a guest mix from Gene Farris. This is LondonBridge for Space Yacht Radio. We will catch you next week on the Flippy Flop. Later. Thank you for being here.
Awesome.
All right.